Welcome to your deep dive.
Oh, this is exciting.
Today we're going to crack open some excerpts from Dr. Khaled Waleed's Persecuted. It's kind of a heady brew of Quranic interpretation, linguistic analysis, and cultural commentary all mixed together. But what really, I guess what hooked me on this was this central idea. Dr. Waleed reinterprets al-wad, which is a term that is usually understood as like the burial of newborn girls, as something much broader. He's talking about the suppression of human freedom. It's something that he calls an ongoing wound that echoes through history. And so what's fascinating is how he links this to the worship of Iblis, you know, the devil, essentially, and the influence of Israelite traditions.
That's really interesting.
So are you ready to jump in? Let's do it.
I think what's really striking is how Dr. Waleed approaches the Quran. He uses something called the science of Quranic phonetics, which delves into the sounds of words to uncover these deeper layers of meaning. So, for example, he takes the word parent Waleed in Arabic and breaks it down phonetically. And then he connects those sounds to broader concepts of creation and guidance. He does the same thing with words like valley, which sounds like the Arabic word for a pagan deity, and monstrous, linking them to the consequences of straying from God's path. So this phonetic analysis is key to understanding his entire argument about al-wad.
So it's not just about looking at the literal meaning of words, but also like the sounds that make them up.
Exactly. It's like he's tuning into a frequency beneath the surface, like finding this hidden language within the Quran itself. And this is how he gets to this incredibly powerful idea. Al-wad isn't just about infanticide. It's about any form of suppressing the human spirit. You know, it's about enforced control, limiting individual liberties, anything that stifles our God-given potential. He even compares it to the worship of Iblis. Essentially putting something else above God's will for humanity to be free.
That's heavy stuff. But I'm also wondering, how does he connect this to Israelite traditions? That feels like a big leap.
It is, and this is where things get even more interesting. Dr. Waleed argues that early Arab culture was negatively influenced by what he calls Atrab, which is a mingling of Arab and Israelite traditions. He claims these influences introduced elements of disbelief and idolatry, essentially leading people away from the true faith.
So he's saying that some Israelite practices, as they mixed with Arab culture, contributed to this idea of al-wad. This suppression of freedom.
Precisely. And he's specifically pointing to the worship of Iblis, associating it with these Atrab influences. It's a provocative claim, and one that definitely deserves further exploration.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. But this all feels pretty abstract. How does this play out in real life? Does he give any concrete examples?
He does.
Of this al-wad in action.
And this is where his analysis gets really fascinating. He takes a look at the waiting period for widows after their husband's death. You're probably familiar with the traditional interpretation, right?
Yeah, I believe it's 4 months and 10 days. But
Dr. Waleed argues that based on his linguistic analysis, it should actually be interpreted as 4 months and 10, meaning 14 months total. A full year longer.
Wow, that's a huge difference. But what's the significance of that? Is he just like nitpicking numbers here?
Not at all. He's showing how even seemingly minor interpretations can have these massive impacts on freedom. He contrasts the two waiting periods, 4 months versus 14, and argues that the longer period allows for a much more natural and dignified grieving process. It's about respecting the widow's emotional needs, allowing her to heal at her own pace rather than being rushed back into these societal expectations.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it really highlights how these ancient texts can be relevant to our lives today, even on like an emotional level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Dr. Waleed even connects this to modern psychology, pointing out that grief doesn't follow a strict timetable.
Right.
He's using this example to show that even something as personal as grief can be subject to all-ward.
Okay.
This idea of unnecessary restriction and control.
So he's saying that the traditional 4-month waiting period might actually be a form of all-ward.
That's exactly his argument.
A subtle way of limiting the widow's freedom and autonomy.
And it gets even more interesting.
Hold on. Okay. We've got to pause right there. I can already feel my brain getting a good workout.
And this is just the beginning.
We'll unpack more of this all-ward mystery in the next part of your deep dive. See you there.
All right, see you then. It's amazing how Dr. Waleed connects this ancient concept of all-ward to something as personal as grief.
Right.
It really makes you think about all the ways we might be experiencing these subtle forms of restriction in our own lives.
I mean, he doesn't just stop at the widow example. Yeah. He goes on to condemn restrictions on things like music and art and even emotional growth. He's saying these are all forms of all-word too, because they limit our potential and go against God's will for us to be free.
Right.
It really, it makes you question
it does.
what limitations we just accept without even realizing they might be holding us back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is where his idea of Baka Jerusalem comes in.
Okay.
It's almost like an antidote to all-word.
Okay.
Imagine like a state of being where you connect directly with the divine, free from any intermediaries or dogma.
Okay.
That's like the essence of Baka Jerusalem.
So it's not like a physical location.
Right.
It's more like...
Yeah, it's more like a state of mind, a way of approaching faith that emphasizes personal experience and freedom.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it also raises a big question for me.
Okay.
How does this emphasis on individual freedom square with Islamic law?
Yeah.
I mean, traditionally, there's a lot of emphasis on rules and regulations. How does he...
So that's a brilliant question.
Yeah.
And you're hitting on a point that Dr. Waleed addresses directly.
Okay.
He argues that true Islamic law, the one revealed in the Quran, is actually in perfect harmony with human freedom and dignity.
Okay.
He believes that many of the restrictions we associate with Islamic law are later additions, things that crept in over time due to cultural influences or political agendas.
Gotcha.
They're not part of the original spirit of the law.
So he's drawing a distinction between the essence of Islamic law and how it's been interpreted and applied throughout history.
Exactly.
He's saying that the true intention is about liberating individuals, not restricting them.
Exactly.
Wow, he's really shaking things up.
Yeah,
it's like he's calling for a complete reevaluation of how we approach Islamic tradition.
Totally.
And this idea of all-wad as like this pervasive force of spiritual oppression is really mind-blowing.
Yes,
it makes you realize that our freedom can be limited in so many subtle ways, not just through obvious coercion, but also through, cultural conditioning and unquestioned assumptions.
And that's precisely what Dr. Waleed wants us to do, to question, to challenge, and to reclaim our God-given right to freedom and self-determination.
Okay.
He sees this as an essential step in our spiritual evolution and a vital part of fulfilling our true potential as human beings.
Yeah.
It's both inspiring and a little daunting, right?
Definitely. I mean, breaking free from these like ingrained patterns of thought and behavior is never easy.
It's not.
It makes you wonder, how do we even begin to untangle ourselves from this this all-wad web?
Well, Dr. Waleed doesn't leave us hanging.
Okay.
He offers some guidance, a kind of roadmap for this journey of liberation.
Okay.
He encourages us to delve deeper into the Quran, seeking guidance from its original message, and to connect with others who are also on this path.
Okay.
He reminds us that we're not alone in this pursuit.
Yeah.
And he keeps coming back to this idea of Baka Jerusalem as a source of inspiration, a model for what a truly liberated spiritual life could look like.
So ultimately his message is one of hope.
Absolutely.
And empowerment.
Yeah.
Even in the face of these oppressive forces.
Yeah, he believes that each of us has the capacity to break free from the chains of all wad and to embrace a life of true freedom and spiritual fulfillment.
Yeah.
It's a powerful message that can resonate across different cultures and spiritual traditions. A call to awaken to our inherent potential for freedom.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that Dr. Waleed's views are his own interpretations.
Of course.
And don't necessarily represent the mainstream of Islamic thought.
Here, we're not presenting this as the definitive truth.
Yeah.
But rather as a thought-provoking perspective that can challenge our own beliefs and assumptions.
And it's up to each of us to engage with these ideas critically and draw our own conclusions.
I'm really struck by how Dr. Waleed weaves together ancient wisdom with modern insights.
He does.
For example, his analysis of the waiting period for widows is rooted in both traditional Islamic scholarship and contemporary psychology. It shows how these ancient texts can still be relevant and meaningful to our lives today.
And he does it in a way that's both intellectually stimulating and emotionally resonant. He doesn't shy away from the emotional weight of these topics. His writing is infused with passion and conviction. You can tell that he deeply believes in what he's saying, and that energy is contagious.
We've talked a lot about Dr. Waleed's critique of all WAD, but I'm curious to hear more about his vision for what a truly liberated society would actually look like. He mentions Baka Jerusalem as a kind of model, but what does that mean in practical terms?
That's a fantastic question.
Yeah.
And it's one that we'll definitely explore further in the final part of your deep dive.
Okay, great.
We'll delve into Dr. Waleed's ideas about social justice, the role of individual responsibility, and his visions for a world where everyone is free to pursue their spiritual path without fear of persecution or oppression.
Okay, I'm definitely hooked.
All right.
This is turning out to be a much richer and more thought-provoking journey than I initially imagined.
And that's the magic of a deep dive.
It is.
We start with a single text, and it opens up this whole universe of ideas and possibilities ready to explore further.
Absolutely. We'll pick up right where we left off in the final part of your deep dive. See you there.
Okay, he's in.
Okay, my mind is like officially blown wide open.
I know, right?
We've covered so much ground already.
We have.
But I'm dying to know. What does a society built on these ideas, this Baka Jerusalem ideal, actually look like? How do we take this from an abstract concept to lived reality?
You're hitting on a key point. Dr. Waleed doesn't lay out a step-by-step political or social program. His focus is less on external structures and more on this internal shift and awakening to the inherent freedom and dignity within each person. So it's more about...
It's almost like he's saying, change the individuals and society will follow.
So each person becoming a kind of mini Baka Jerusalem.
Precisely.
I love the idea, but it also feels a bit idealistic. Can individual transformation really create systemic change?
It's a valid question. And one Dr. Waleed acknowledges. He recognizes the strength of those systemic forces, but he also firmly believes in the power of individual choice and action.
So
even small acts of resistance.
Choosing to live authentically instead of conforming it. It all adds up.
So less about top-down revolution.
Like gradually chipping away at a huge wall piece by piece.
More like planting seeds of change.
Exactly.
Inspiring others through how we live.
He sees Baka Jerusalem not as a physical utopia, but as a spiritual ideal we can embody right now. Wherever we are.
It's about creating
those pockets of freedom, those spaces where people connect with God and each other authentically without pressure or dogma.
That makes me think about how he condemns restrictions on things like music and art and emotional expression. He's not just talking about big abstract freedoms. It's the stuff that makes life.
It's the everyday stuff.
Vibrant and meaningful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He sees those restrictions as a kind of spiritual poverty, denying all the richness God intended for humanity.
And it all ties back.
To all stifling creativity or emotional growth is just as damaging as restricting someone physically.
This is so resonant for me. True spirituality isn't about...
It's not about rules.
Following a bunch of rules. Right. It's about embracing life.
It's about the experience.
In all its fullness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what Dr. Waleed captures so well.
Right.
Pursuing beauty, knowledge, personal growth.
Yeah.
Those are all essential parts of a fulfilling spiritual life.
It's like,
He even suggests it's a form of worship.
Yeah.
Honoring God by appreciating the gifts we've been given.
It's such a beautiful way to reframe things. It moves away from
it does.
obedience and restriction.
Towards joy.
Joy and gratitude.
And gratitude.
Yeah. And this links right back.
And this links right back to individual responsibility. True freedom isn't just doing whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's about using our gifts wisely.
Right.
Contributing to the well-being of others.
So freedom with a purpose.
Yeah.
Not just an end in itself.
Right.
But a means to create a more just, compassionate world.
You nailed it.
Okay.
Social justice is woven right into his vision for a liberated society.
Okay.
He calls for compassion towards the oppressed.
Okay.
Speaking truth to power.
Right.
Challenging systems of inequality.
Now I'm really seeing what a Baka Jerusalem-inspired society could be.
It's exciting.
Individual freedom, creativity, diversity.
Yeah.
But also working towards justice and all.
And what's amazing is this vision has the potential to reach beyond any one religion or culture.
Right.
It speaks to that human longing for freedom, authenticity, a sense of belonging.
I'm left with a sense of hope, but also responsibility.
Yeah.
It's inspiring to imagine a world without a watered state.
Yeah.
But getting there...
It takes work.
Both individually and together.
Dr. Waleed's work is a powerful call to action.
It is.
We can choose to conform to the forces that limit us.
Yeah.
Or embrace our freedom and become agents of change.
It's a choice we make daily.
It is.
Big or small.
Yeah.
And it shapes the world.
Every choice matters.
We create.
They do.
What a powerful note to end on.
It is.
Persecuted has really given us a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
It challenged our assumptions, expanded how we think about freedom, and left us feeling both empowered and responsible.
It's been a privilege to explore this with you.
Likewise.
Hopefully our conversation has sparked something.
Yeah.
A desire to delve deeper, question, challenge, and ultimately embrace your own journey towards freedom and authenticity.
And to you listening.
Yes.
Thank you for joining this deep dive.
Thanks for being here.
We hope it's been as thought-provoking and inspiring for you as it was for us.
It's been a pleasure.
But remember, the real journey starts now. And the choices you make, the actions you take, and the world we build together